Today we'll recap the last weekend of racing, including over at Spa, Belgium, and preview the upcoming weekend, including Jamie Chadwick's return in Formula Regional competition, and the Iron Lynx, the Iron Dames, are returning back onto the track. All that and more right here on Grid Girls.
Good evening, everyone. If you're in the US, or good morning if you're in the US, and good evening if you're in Europe. My name is Daniele Zeri from Racers Behind the Helmet. Welcome to Grid Girls, the girls racing to win. Alongside me, there's Joe from the Grid Network. Hi, Joe. We'll go through several stories to report this from last weekend. Also some big announcements like the Extreme E announcements earlier this week. First, we start with the TCR Europe. Joe, to you.
Yes, definitely. I know TCR Europe, they were racing over at Spa-Francorchamps. Of course, everyone knows that as the site of the Belgian Grand Prix. Big corners such as Eau Rouge. The circuit has a lot of history to it. And for TCR Europe, definitely it was a site for Jessica Bachmann and Michele Halder's latest race. Unfortunately for the two of them, despite both of them having pretty good seasons, this round was just very unlucky for both of them. Jessica, once again, came close to top 10, but crashed out badly in race one in the first lap. Of course, we all know in Spa-Francorchamps, there has been a lot of notorious first lap accidents that have occurred, especially in Formula One. We all saw Formula 2. We all know about a tragic accident last year. Of course, Jessica, everybody was okay after that first lap accident, but definitely their race was ruined. For Michele, had a good start, but then she started dropping back towards the end, and she came home 16th place, just outside the points in TCR Europe Race 1. Race 2, though, Michele had contact and suspension failure that essentially ended her day early. And Jessica was in the points after some good overtaking moves, but so far she just hasn't been able to fully show the potential this year. Last year, of course, she raced here, did fairly well. Was looking forward for this year being another improvement, but just this year has not been the case for both of them. Now, of course, this was the second to last race. At Jamara, Spain, that's where the season finale for the TCR Europe Series is going to take place. So definitely we're going to be encouraging following the racers going on to Spain, and encourage everyone, all our viewers, as we talk about the drivers, you'll see their names and their Twitter handles or Instagram account handles. So encourage everyone to follow all the racers we discuss about in the program. I know one of the upcoming races we're going to be talking about next, Jessica Hawkins.
Absolutely. Speaking about touring cars, you mentioned the TCR Europe. Let's go to the UK for the BTCC, the British Touring Car Championship, one of the most competitive touring car series worldwide, I would say. And Jessica Hawkins, former W Series racer, of course, last year she did pretty well in W Series, and she qualified also again for the 2020 series that will become, of course, the 2021 after the W Series got cancelled. Jessica this year has been racing in a couple of events in the Jaguar I-Pace E-Trophy, the series that was racing alongside the Formula E as a supporter to Formula E. She did the final two races in Berlin. And she has been testing the BTCC car, the Astra, the Vauxhall Astra from Power Max to Racing at Snetterton, and she was announced a couple of weeks ago to be racing to make her debut in the BTCC. Power Max Racing is also the team that where Jade Edwards made her debut in the same series at Silverstone. So definitely a team that has been providing some interesting opportunities to female racing drivers lately. Jessica did pretty well. Of course, it was a last-minute debut with not really much of a testing experience. She only did one session at Snetterton prior to the race, but she did pretty well. She qualified the car in P22. Of course, there's a huge grid in the STC, in the BTCC, and there are a lot of very, very experienced drivers racing in that same series for 10 or even 15 years in that series. Very popular championship in the UK, probably the most followed racing series after Formula One. And Jessica did pretty well, of course. As I said, she qualified P22. She had a lot of ballast on the car as per regulations. So the qualifying and race 1 were a little bit a matter of holding position, and she did that in race 1. She finished P22, which was pretty okay. The second race, of course, she was looking to going up a little bit up the order with no ballast. She unfortunately she did a mistake in the first lap, and she dropped a lot of positions during the first lap. But then again, she had pace for top 15, and she could recover. She made a lot of passes, good moves, and she finished P21. So pretty good second race from her. In the third and final race of the weekend at Snetterton, she had like the perfect start off the line. Unfortunately, she got pushed wide and off the track in the opening stages of the race. But she could manage to again to recover and to came back, and she came back, and on the last lap she managed to do a last lap pass for a P20. So another pretty good race from Jess. She said that her target was always going to be the top 20 in her debut, and she did that. So she came home happy about that. Hopefully the team will give her another chance. There's only one more round to go at in the BTCC. Let's see if Jessica can be back in the championship for the final round of the season.
Definitely be exciting to see if Jessica come back in the final round of competition. And sticking to the United Kingdom, of course, Porsche Carrera Cup UK was racing this past weekend. That's where we see Esme Hockey. She has had a very great season overall this year. And without a doubt, considering her great season, this weekend for her was considered one of her worst seasons. But still, the numbers look pretty good. Still managed to finish second and third in the Pro-Am class after her 7th pole of the season. Now, of course, for someone to say that was their worst weekend, for a lot of folks, that would say that was their best weekend. But for Esme, she is very competitive. She always wants to go out there, try to get the wins, just dominate competition and go for the wins. Unfortunately, she couldn't seal her title with 1 round to go, but she still goes into the Brands Hatch finale as the championship favorite and the points leader for Porsche Carrera Cup UK. Now, Brands is her home track, and she lives really nearby. Last year, she had her best weekend in the W Series at Brands Hatch, where she qualified 3rd place. So definitely, we're all going to be looking for and reporting on her championship efforts at Brands Hatch. And one of the big things, of course, especially when it comes to sports car racing, is super competitive. So definitely really excited to see what she's doing. And one upcoming talent in British Formula 4, we have to talk about Abby Pullen.
Absolutely. Also in Snetterton, there was a very big weekend of motor racing in Snetterton last weekend in the UK. As you said, Abby Pulling was back on the grid of the British Formula 4 Championship, supporting the BTCC, of course. Abby also is having a fantastic season this year in her rookie season in sports cars. So straight from karting to Formula 4 cars, we spoke about that last weekend, the last week episode about the switch from karting to Formula 4 cars. Abby has managed to do a perfect job this year. She's coached by W Series race winner Alice Powell. It's always good to remind that the brilliant work that Alice has been doing this year, also not only as a driver but also as a race coach. Abby had a pretty challenging weekend in Snetterton after she has been competing for podium positions and for victories. We said last week that her first victory wasn't that far away. She actually had a couple of more challenging races at Snetterton. Her free practice sessions were not perfect. The team said that they didn't really go to plan free practice and testing prior to the race event. She qualified P6, which still was the best of the JHR Developments race team. but nowhere near where she wanted to be. She wanted to be, of course, around the top 3. In the first race, she could finish P4, so pretty good. She could move up a couple of positions from her starting place, but she was starting P3 in the second race, and actually she finished P5. So that was a little bit of a disappointment for Abby. She had a mistake also in the first race, and which was the reverse grid race from race 1. The third race, she finished P6. Basically, she stayed where she started. It was pretty good from her. Not big mistakes. She could still finish P6, even though she made a couple of overtaking. One overtake in the first lap. After she had very bad starts, actually. The biggest problem for her, it was the starts this weekend. She had 2 bad starts in race 2 and race 3, and that's where she lost out, and she missed out on potential podium positions. But still, she's fighting for a 6th place in the point standings. Again, the British Formula 4 Championship will be back at Brands Hatch, like the BTCC and the Porsche Carrera Cup, as you said, for the final round of the championship. But actually, Abby will be racing before the British Formula 4 season finale, as she announced a couple of days ago that she will be racing this weekend together with Formula 1. That was a big announcement, because Abby will be racing in the Formula Renault Euro Cup at Imola this coming weekend. We previously reported on the Formula Renault Euro Cup races with Vicky Piria making her debut there. She was the first woman to finish in the points at Magny-Cours some race weekends ago. So Abby, straight from karting to Formula 4, now in the Formula 3 Formula Euro Cup by Renault, which uses the same Formula 3 cars that are employed in the Formula Regional European Championship and also in the W Series. I think that that race weekend from her is definitely going to be a testing ground for a potential W Series move. If W Series, we don't know if W Series will reopen its selection program for 2021. But if they will do so, I think that Abby Pulling is definitely on the list to be one of the upcoming W Series entries. Everyone knows, around Europe knows, that Abby Pulling is probably one of the most exciting talents coming up in the feeder series championships. So it's definitely going to be interesting to follow her this coming weekend together with Formula 1. Of course, the Formula 2 and the FIA International Formula 3 series are not racing this weekend as a support series. There's only the Formula Renault Euro Cup series racing together with Formula 1 in Imola. And actually, Abby sent us a picture of her like 1 hour ago doing the seat fitting. I'll show that maybe if you can see that. There you go. She was doing the seat fitting in the Formula Renault car. She will be racing for the Fernando Alonso Racing team. So that's definitely something interesting, which is a team that also provided some interesting opportunities to other female racing drivers in the not so far, not in the past, not that long. And Marta Garcia has been testing for the same team in pre-season testing. Of course, she was set to compete in the series as well, but she couldn't do that after the W Series got cancelled. And so we will see Abby Pulling racing in Imola, definitely someone to watch. But going to the States, also there's a pretty big weekend coming up at Laguna Seca.
Yeah, so Laguna Seca, a big weekend coming up for NASCAR. ARCA Menards driver Hailie Deegan, of course, it's no secret, Hailie Deegan is going to the NASCAR Truck Series next year full-time in Ford Motorsports and participating in Ford Motorsports driver development program. She got a great opportunity where she's going to be racing in the IMSA season finale race over at Laguna Seca. Now, of course, one of the reasons why Hailie Deegan's looking to making her start at the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge to close out her 2020 program is because we all know starting next year, the NASCAR Cup Series, as well as the Trucks and Xfinity Series, are moving to more road courses. So traditionally in the Cup Series, where we've had 2 road courses and that was it, now they're going to start having 6 road courses next year. So 5 opportunities for NASCAR races to win and then try to get into playoffs. Of course, the Truck Series, that schedule has yet to be announced, but it's anticipated that they're going to see the increased number of road courses as well. She will be driving the number 22 Multimatic Motorsports Ford Mustang GT4 at the upcoming race at WeatherTech Raceway in Laguna Seca with young sports car ace Seb Priox. They'll be running with the IMPC system finale at Sebring as well, too. So as well as the IMSA race at Laguna Seca, Sebring, of course, Sebring, 12 hours there. It's always one of the big deals. And with NASCAR adding more road courses for Hailie Deegan, this just really made sense to go ahead and get additional road course time compared to her experience she already has in the short ovals, super speedways, and of course the 1.5-mile ovals. Now, speaking about 1.5-mile ovals, Jennifer Jo Cobb, of course, has been racing in the NASCAR Gander RV Outdoor Truck Series race. The latest race was the SpeedyCash.com race at Texas Motor Speedway. Jennifer Jo Cobb came in on 24th place after starting 31st. What makes Texas Motor Speedway a tricky 1.5-mile oval is the fact that you have 2 different ends with different banking. So turn 1, turn 2, a lot less banking, but a much wider track. Turn 3, turn 4, more banking, a much narrower track. So handling is a big issue in turn 1 and turn 2. If you could go with turn 1 and 2 and have momentum on that backstretch, you could pass vehicles coming into the backstretch and, of course, exiting turn 4 as well, because turn 4, you usually are flat out. Now, the next race for the Gander RV Truck Series is the NASCAR Hall of Fame 200 at Martinsville Speedway. That is the shortest track on the circuit. It's referred to as a paperclip because it has 2 very long straights and 2 fairly flat corners. A lot of beating and banging are going to occur in this race. Of course, the Cup Series race as well. Natalie Decker will be returning back to the Truck Series. She's going to be starting 26th on the NASCAR Hall of Fame race. And then, of course, Jennifer Jo Cobb will be starting 29th. With the short tracks, the big advantage you have compared to the speedways and especially the 1.5 is short track racing. Aerodynamics is not that big of an issue. Handling the truck is still plays a big factor, but it's not as big as a factor, especially at Texas Motor Speedway. So this is where really a driver, especially a short track racing ace, could really show their skills and bring home a good finish for their team. So definitely we're going to be following the NASCAR racing weekend coming up. And one of the more exciting series that is going to be coming up is, of course, Extreme E, where we're going to have essentially on Tuesday, the Extreme E Series launch their upcoming season for the 2021, and it's looking really exciting. Essentially 6 races. Each race is 2 days with 2 qualifying races, a semifinal, and a crazy race. The way the format works, on Saturday is the 2 qualifying races where each team will race twice. On Sunday, the semifinal race, 4 teams, the top 3 advance to the final. And the crazy race, the 4 slowest teams from Saturday, only the winning team will advance. So it's going to be really interesting, that crazy race, and see how many from the crazy race could win the final race. Of course, the big unique factor that a lot of folks are aware of is the race 2 laps and drivers must switch. And this is the first series to see a mandate where one driver has to be female, one driver has to be male. We have seen in some American sports where to add diversity, they've instituted policies such as the National Football League in the United States, where they do have a way to ensure that coaching selection for hiring a coach includes minorities, especially African Americans. Now we're seeing sort of that same kind of policy in motorsports to ensure that we have one male and one female racer for each team. Daniel, how exciting is this to see a new series develop a format where teams are now scouting for female driving talent?
Well, I think that's as you perfectly mentioned, as you perfectly summed up the new format. This is a format that has never been done before. It is something completely new. Really exciting to see how this first season will pan out. Of course, the championship was invented by Alejandro Agag, the mastermind behind the Formula E championship as well. So he is kind of a motorsport hero because everything that he touches, it turns to gold lately. So definitely the Extreme E is something that it hasn't not started yet, and still there's a huge hype around this series. As you said perfectly, the big news is that there will be one male and one female driver. This is completely new for every kind of motorsport. Alejandro said that during the Tuesday conference that actually to promote females in motorsport has always been one of his targets, since he had the Formula 3 team. He then had a GP2 team as well. He always tried to bring female racing drivers to the echelons of motorsport. He said that in Formula 3 it didn't really work out as he wished, so he tried this new different approach for Extreme E. He said that his main inspiration was the tennis, the double in tennis, of course, where there is one male and one female, and there's, of course, there are differences, but in that sport, unlike motorsport, but they are competing in the same game and in the same team. So definitely that's something that Extreme E will try to bring into the game. We've also heard from Michele Mouton, the president of the FIA Women in Motorsport Commission. She spoke in the press conference as well. And of course, she was very happy about the announcement of the launch of Extreme E, because it's basically the first championship where there is complete numerical parity between males and female drivers, and 50% male and 50% female. That's what she said, that it was her goal from the beginning, from when she took the position at the FIA Women in Motorsport Commission. Of course, Michele was also one of the biggest names in motorsport in rally driving. She competed in WRC in the 80s, and she came very close to winning a championship, but she's so far the only woman that was able to do so. So definitely one of the biggest names in motorsport. Michele Mouton has done so much for women in the sport, and since she has been leading the Women in Motorsport Commission, that has been doing huge steps forward in the right direction for women in the sport. As you said, it's going to be very interesting what teams will be employing which driver. So far, only two female drivers have been announced. One is Katie Munnings and the other is Sarah Price. We spoke with one of the team principals, with Rupert Svensson-Cook, who is the co-founder of the Veloce esports team. They're switching from esports to real racing. Ironically, well, most of the other teams are doing the other way around. Rupert also happens to be Jamie Chadwick's manager, so we asked him if Jamie was in contention for a seat, and this is what he told us.
Obviously, the Veloce that you own will be in the Extreme E Championship.
Yeah.
Of course, there's going to be a female driver.
Yes.
Is she one of the potential drivers?
Yeah, certainly she's in the running for it. Obviously, Jamie's core focus is, like we said, is to go the distance in single seaters and go to Formula One. And Extreme E, to be honest, didn't exist 2 years ago. But certainly we are Jamie's contender for the seat. We're looking at a few options. To be honest, we're more or less sorted on the male driver, but we're looking at we're still considering our options on the female.
So as Rupert told us, Jamie Chadwick is one of the drivers in contention for the seat at Veloce Sports in the Extreme E Championship. Also, there is another female driver, that's a very famous female driver, that has been testing the Extreme E electric SUV car for the first time, and that is Sophia Flörsch. Sophia is now in Portimao, and this weekend she will be racing in the ELMS. And yesterday she was testing at Jerez in the FIA Formula 3. So she's very busy, and next year again she told us that she will target again another double program in the FIA Formula 3 and in the ELMS. But she tested the car, the Extreme E car. She went to the south of France with the Extreme E organization. And last time we spoke to her, we also asked, we were talking, it was a little, not much of a interview, it was a little bit more of a chat. We were chatting about our future, and we brought up the team of Extreme E, and that's what she told us.
Yeah, and then we'll see, you know, maybe some other projects coming up.
Yeah.
But
The
nothing.
you tested?
Well, I tested it, yeah, but not really
Yeah.
more to say. I mean,
Okay.
I did the test, and then we'll see, you know. But for sure, F3 is my main
Yeah.
project,
Yeah.
and this one. And
Yeah, so Sophia said that so far there's no real negotiations going on for her participation in the Extreme E. That's something that I think she would be interested in. She also have very close ties with HWA, the team. She has been testing yesterday for HWA. Last year she was very involved also in the Formula E program. She was at the simulator a couple of times, as far as I know. So HWA also racing in the Extreme E Championship, so maybe that's something that could be interesting. But so far, as she said, her test was a little bit more promotional. Also, Valtteri Bottas has been testing the car. I think that was, as for Sophia, a little bit more of a promotional test to bring the name out of Extreme E in the social media. But yeah, definitely it's going to be interesting what drivers are going to be racing in Extreme E. I think that's going to be very interesting because there's an interesting switch from race tracks to rally. That's going to be a very interesting crossover, let's say. Also, Michaela Olen-Kotulinski said that she's very interesting in taking the start in the first inaugural season in Extreme E. She's been testing the car extensively. She was the test driver for the tire manufacturer Continental. So definitely, I think we will see Michaela in the first season. Maybe that's purely my speculation, though. Maybe she has links with Abt team because of the Cupra links. She has been racing with the Cupra team in Sweden in the STCC TCR Scandinavia. So maybe that's something that she will a path that she will pursue. But yeah, there's also, as I said, another interesting driver that has been already confirmed, and that's Sarah Price. American driver. She will be racing with Ganassi, so a very famous American team. Sarah has a huge motorsport resume in the US, spanning from motocross, supercross. She was part of the all-female team Monster Energy Kawasaki. She's also an X Games medalist. So, I mean, someone that has a huge background in American motorsport. Not that popular here in Europe as in the US, but that's also something very important, you know, to bring a name like her on an international platform. Joe, what do you think? How exciting it is for an American race fan, for American race fans to see Sarah racing on such an international series?
It is very exciting to see Sarah Price become part of such an international series. I know here, a lot of times, especially in the United States, you know, we are interested, especially if there's some American racing internationally. I know earlier today, we all saw on the MotoGP, Nicky Hayden, the last American to win the MotoGP World Championship. He is a huge name, especially in Kentucky, his home state. When it comes to Formula E, for example, or Formula One, there are the Formula One fans that follow it. But if there was an American race car driver there, you're going to have more fans vested because I'm cheering for the American fan. With Sarah Price entering such an international series, Extreme E, that's really going to elevate Extreme E in the United States household. And what's really interesting, Sarah Price, of course, motocross, supercross, been doing off-road truck races such as the stadium trucks and core championship racing trucks. A lot of times you don't see off-road racing on mainstream media. Quite often, mainstream media in the United States involves NASCAR, IndyCar, Formula One. You will catch off-road racing, especially on some other off-channels. MAV TV is a good example, the Versus channel when it was around. But it hasn't really seen much media attention ever since ESPN sort of left it after the core sort of disbanded. One of the big things to bring Extreme E to this new group of race fans that are into off-road racing, are into motocross, American off-roading, this is going to get their attention. They're going to get excited about, and I think it's going to be a big win for Extreme E to have that sort of connection for American fans to follow. Now, of course, with Sarah Price, there's also the other female driver confirmed, Katie Munnins from the United Kingdom. She started rally racing at the age of 13. Really started really young, of course, had family support to help her get in there. She got into European Rally Championship and then Junior World Rally Championship. She has a growing fan base across Europe as well, especially when it comes to rally racing. Of course, similar to how I mentioned about off-road racing versus the circuit races of NASCAR, IndyCar here in the United States. Rally racing, of course, has a much different fan base than the circuit races of Formula One and all the Formula feeder systems. Having Katie on such an international stage on a new series like Extreme E, how much attention will this bring having her part of Extreme E?
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think, as I said before, Extreme E will be very interesting for the crossover between the tracks, track motorsport, track-based motorsport, and rally-based motorsport. I think that's going to be very important to create a new fan base for a totally new series. And Alejandro Agag knows that very well. I mean, the inclusion of Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg as team principals, or other very important teams in circuit racing like Andretti Autosport and Ganassi Racing. This is something very important to create a new fan base from scraps for a new championship. But of course, it's going to be an off-road series, so there's going to be definitely competitive rally drivers. And Katie Munnings is one of the big names, upcoming names in rally driving, in rally-based competitions. As you said, she competed in the junior WRC. She has been the only female so far lately to compete in a WRC sanctioned event. She is a Red Bull sponsored athlete, so definitely she has some fan base growing. And with the fans coming from Formula One, obviously following Lewis Hamilton's team and Nico Rosberg's, and also other series that like IndyCar or NASCAR that has been lining up. They will be lining up a car in Extreme E. I think this is very important to create a new fan base, and this crossover, that will be drivers that have a rally background. There will be drivers with a circuit background. So this is going to be a totally different championship, a totally new concept. And I think that having Katie on such a championship, she has, of course, the knowledge, the technical knowledge to race a rally car. She will be racing alongside Hansen, who is a rally cross driver. So definitely this is going to be a very competitive team, I believe. But yeah, that I think as Alejandro Agag, I think his target was to create that fan base from zero, together with the circuit fans and the rally fans. And Katie Monnings, of course, she has pretty big fan base in rally.
Yeah, very big fan base, and it definitely seems like the perfect blend of a fan base. I know, especially with Sarah Price, Chip Ganassi Racing. Of course, Chip Ganassi very famous for IndyCar, NASCAR as well, and Andretti Autosport as well. Definitely encourage everyone as well. We cover more about the Extreme E, including the race formats, the rules, and some of the unique items such as the Brazilian race. So definitely encourage everyone to visit Grid Network, and yesterday's Grid Tonight episode, we'll talk more about Extreme E. Now, of course, Extreme E season starts March 20th, 21st, 2021. We definitely, of course, have a big upcoming weekend of racing. Who all is coming up racing this weekend?
Yeah, another big week for motor racing, as most of the championship are now coming towards their final rounds of their shortened seasons. ELMS will round out its season at Portimao in Algarve, in Portugal. Of course, we've seen Formula One racing there last weekend. Most of the fans didn't really know Portimao before Formula One. Everyone now could see how great of a track that is. ELMS, the European Le Mans Series, will be back in Portugal. Last year, they also had their final round of the season at the Portimao track. Of course, we have two fully female teams in ELMS, the Richard Mille Racing in LMP2 category, in the prototype category, with Sofia Flörsch, Tatiana Calderon, and Baitske Visser. They will be back racing there in the beautifully red number 50 prototype. Baitske will be back in the car. She didn't. Last time we spoke to her, she didn't know if she was going to do the final round of the season, because, of course, Catherine Legg was supposed to be racing in the Richard Mille Racing LMP2 car. Catherine has decided to skip also the final round of the championship. She will be back next year for her first what it will be her first season in ELMS. Obviously, we wish Catherine a fast recovery. She's recovering from her injuries in pre-season testing. Baitske will be back in the LMP2 car. She has been competing basically the full season, apart from the opening round in Le Castellet, where André Negrao took her place. There is also going to be another fully female team in the GTE category. They are the Iron Dames, racing in the Iron Lynx team. Manuela Gosner, Michele Gatting, and Rahel Frey. Rahel Frey, who will be in Portimao and not in Lausitzring for the final for the penultimate round of the ADAC GT Masters Championship. ADAC also has its round in Germany at the Lausitzring. It was supposed to be racing in the Netherlands at Zandvoort, but of course, after in Europe, there's is struggling for the second wave of the coronavirus pandemic. The travel restrictions again have become a little bit more tricky. So the ADAC GT Masters and all the ADAC championships in Germany opted to race in Germany. They will be doing another race event at the Lausitzring, and Rahel, of course, will miss that race as she is in Portimao. Together with the ELMS, let's say that the Iron Dames will be competing. They will be fight for to defend their third place in the championship. They are currently third in the GTE class. Last year, they were again competing for the top three, but they had a pretty unlucky race at Portimao. They had a first lap incident that took them out of the race. Even though they were pretty competitive there, they proved to have the pace for a top three, definitely. So it was a pretty unfortunate weekend for them. They could not finish the championship in top three in the point standings, but this year they're definitely on in the mix for that. Racing together with ELMS in Portimao, there will be also the Alpine Elf Europa Cup, where both Lilou Wadou and Gauchard d'Est will be racing there. Gauchard has had a good weekend, a good season in the Elf Alpine Europa Cup. She was back into touring cars, into GT cars after a season in W Series, so in Formula 3 cars. She expected probably a little bit better from this Alpine Europa Cup. She's currently 8th in the standings, but still a pretty decent championship for her. She has also been racing in the Polish Touring Car Championship. We reported from her races in the Polish Touring Car Championship, where she finished 2nd in both classes where she competed. And Lilou Wadou, very young French driver, very interesting. I think that's her first full season in cars after karting. She's like 15-year-old from France. Very interesting driver. She's 6th in the championship. She could claim a 4th place finish at Magny-Cours as her best finish this year. So definitely it's going to be interesting to see both Gauchard and Lilou at Portimao. And we already spoke about the ADAC GT Masters. There's only going to be Simona De Silvestro on the grid this weekend in the Premier German T3-based championship, because of course Rahel, as we said, she will be in Portugal, and Kerry Schreiner, who was also set to take the start in ADAC GT Masters, yesterday evening she said that she will not take the start at the Lausitz because she's not feeling very well. She said that she was struggling. She has been struggling with a bad cold in the past days. So of course, with all the madness going around these days, she is not going to travel to the Lausitz. She said that she was not going to endanger her other team members, and she will be missing this round, and she will be back for the final round of the season in 2 weeks' time. Sorry, at the Oschersleben racetrack. Together with ADAC GT Masters, of course, ADAC, there's also the GT4 Championship, where the Kreuz-Pointner twins, Alesia and Jacqueline Kreuz-Pointner, are racing. They're racing in the same team in the GT4 Championship in Germany, in a BMW M4 GT4 car. In another BMW M4, there's also Claudia Hurtgen, very experienced driver from Germany. We often reported from her. She's been doing a pretty decent season in the ADAC GT4 Championship. And of course, there's also a very last minute announcement from the ADAC categories. The ADAC TCR Championship will see the debut of Laura Kreihammer. Laura is a very talented Austrian driver. She has been racing, she has plenty of GT4 experience. She has been racing in the European GT4 Championship. Last year, she did the ADAC GT4 Championship. This year, she has been racing also in the VLN in a Volkswagen TCR car. So she will be making her ADAC TCR debut in Lausitzring, and I think with a Hyundai car. She is definitely one to watch. Very talented driver from Austria. Last week we also said that Danish Formula 4 was racing this week in Sweden. After they canceled the last 2 rounds in Denmark, the Danish authorities canceled basically scrapped the whole season. The organizers decided to try to organize the final race event in Sweden, which so far has had the fewest restrictions in travel. Unfortunately, they will be not. They are not making it to Sweden. So yesterday they decided to cancel also the final round in Sturup Raceway. So Juju Noda, who was racing in Danish Formula 4, it was her first full season racing in Formula cars. She's a 14-year-old from Japan, also, daughter of a former Formula 1 driver, Noda. Hideki Noda. Juju is always under the spotlight because she is such a young driver. She has been racing in the Danish Formula 4 because it was the only series that allowed 14-year-olds. She had a pretty good season in this year with only 3 race weekends completed. She could clinch 3 pole positions, so 3 out of 3 for her. A second place finish, a third place finish, and a victory in her very first opening round. So pretty good first season for her in Europe. Hopefully next year we will see more from her. But her season is not over yet because she has been one of the 8 drivers shortlisted for the third stage of the FIA Women Motorsport program, the Rising Stars program. We spoke about that in the previous episodes. So Juju will be in Paul Ricard in next week, actually, to compete in Formula 4 cars in the assessment for the FDA Ferrari Driver Academy sponsored program. She will be competing for a spot in the highly regarded Ferrari Driver Academy. She missed the karting selections because just like the French driver Dorian Pin, because she was all racing, competing in cars, so they allowed her to skip straight to the third stage, where they will be assessed on Formula 4 cars. So the season is not over yet for Juju, and the final weekend, well, not actually the final, because Formula Regional European Championship will be racing in Barcelona. Jamie Chadwick will be back in the Formula 3 based Formula Regional. I've been following her the full season basically on trackside. Unfortunately, due to the well-known restrictions in travels, I will not be making it to Barcelona, to Spain this weekend. I will be back in Imola for the penultimate round of the championship. So best of luck to Jamie, of course. Hopefully she will be making another appearance in the top 5, where she belongs. And also Spanish Formula 4 returns to the track after a month. They last raced at Jerez 1 month ago, and now they will be racing at Aragon, Motorland Aragon, a track that is well known for its MotoGP race. And Lina Buller, the Swiss driver for Drivex, she will hit the track again at Aragon. Lina, of course, she's a very interesting driver. Also, her first season in Formula cars. She was a pretty big name in European karting. She has had a pretty mixed season so far. I think she has the potential and the speed to compete for the top 5 and top 6 positions. I think she's a massively talented driver, but so far she had pretty bad luck in a couple of rounds. Couldn't capitalize on her speed in the latest rounds. So definitely it's going to be interesting to see Lina competing at Aragon. She has had a couple of test days, from what I know, on that track. So hopefully it's going to be a good weekend for Lina.
Definitely a good weekend. We wish all the women racing around the world the best of luck this upcoming weekend. And of course, we encourage everyone, if you know of a young female racer coming up, whether it's at your local karting track, at the local short track, or even the drag strip. I know, especially in the United States and growing in Europe, there are drag racing out there. Let them know about Grid Girls. Let them know. We'll love to know about them, follow them on social media, and definitely give them the attention for their racing accomplishments as well. We thank everyone for watching today. Be sure to visit Racers, the Girls Behind the Helmet, their website. You can find a full calendar of all the women racing, along with great articles every week of all the races going on. Subscribe to the Grid Network. Be sure to like and comment on this video. We enjoy bringing you all the stories every week. We hit 100 subscribers last Sunday. Very excited. We're already up to 107, so I encourage you to share it with your friends, family that enjoy motorsports. For Daniel, I'm Joe. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you next time.